Yeah, this only proves this only proves the American precondition towards fascism, that a bunch of teenagers were so ready. Well, if it happens without the internet in 5 days, how many days does it take on Twitter? You know, something to think about. That is so crazy. Please watch this as high school turned to a fascist regime in 5 days.
It all started with one profound question in the classroom. How could the German people sit back while the Nazis slaughtered those around them? Ron Jones found himself at a loss for words. He didn't have an answer, at least not one that truly satisfied him. The question haunted him, lingering in his mind long after the class had ended. But Jones...
I mean, Israel, dude. Look at Israel. The answer is right there.
Was not just any teacher. He was the kind of teacher every student wished for. Charismatic, engaging, and deeply invested in their learning.
He did innovative things too. He was bringing guests to the class. Very interesting, controversial guests. He brought in a communist, he brought in a Klansman, he brought in a member of the American Nazi Party to talk about white supremacy.
All the way through, he was presenting different sides of every question. I remember when we studied about Vietnam, he made us write 10 arguments for, 10 arguments against.
He didn't try to be...
I would rather have an entire legion of AI chatters than the current bots that I have in the chat that are all saying, "Is this AI?" in unison. You guys are so funny, dude. Chat, y'all are funny as fuck, dog. That's crazy. No one ever made that joke.
Be above you. He tried to, I would say that Jones had a capacity to teach with you.
And for Jones, caring for his students meant more than just delivering lessons. Determined to teach them in a way they would never forget, he devised an experiment that would literally change their life. One that would challenge not only their understanding of themselves, but also our collective understanding of human nature. When the students arrived, they noticed the chairs and tables were arranged into 6 neat rows, and the room echoed with the dramatic strains of Wagnerian music. The students, accustomed to a free-flowing atmosphere, were left wondering what they were going to learn that day. It's normal for them to wonder, but this time, something felt different, unnerving even.
It's funny, he didn't quite have the smile in his expression. He didn't quite have the smile in his eyes either.
And then he broke his silence and gave them a unified goal.
I remember clearly from him and classmates that if we followed what was asked of us, we'd all get A's.
He said that if we were active party members, we would get an A. If we were passive party members, we would get a C. If we tried a revolution and failed, we would get an F. But if our revolution succeeded, we would get an A.
To make matters even more confusing is when he wrote "strength through discipline" on the blackboard.
Today I'm going to talk to you about discipline. Power through discipline. Success? Success through discipline. You play football? You know it takes discipline to win. What about ballet dancers? Same goes with painters, scientists. It is all discipline.
Dude, what the fuck were teachers allowed to do in like the 60s and 70s? Isn't this when the famous like teacher describes racism stuff happened too? I forget what it was, but like, bro, they used to let you do shit. You could beat the shit out of your students. You could just like do little mind tricks on them and stuff, I guess. And then they made movies about how your mind tricks were awesome. Truly a wild state of affairs back then. I genuinely think public schools in the 60s in America was just no holds barred. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want to these kids, man. Like the lady with the brown eyes are the master race. I forget her name. Yeah, Jane Elliott, brown eyes, blue eyes. And then if you were wild enough, they let you go on television and they presented you as like a brilliant innovator.
Control. The strength of the will.
He wanted his students to succeed, so to achieve that, he devised a few simple exercises.
One of the first things that he did for us was give us an exercise where we put our hands behind our back and lock them together.
Then, he told the students to stand outside the classroom and wait until he called them in. As soon as they entered, they were to enter as swiftly as they could, assume their seats with perfect posture, and all the while, he would record how fast they were.
And then Mr. Jones would look at the stopwatch and say, I think we can do it faster.
Like, what class is this? Because I know it ain't fucking geography. Do Americans even have that as a class?
Excellent. Half the time.
It might have even surprised Jones how quickly they followed his orders with just simple exercises. But at the end of the day, that was his goal and he did it flawlessly. The experiment was supposed to be over that day until he came to class the next morning.
Well, I entered the class the second day, and I really anticipated that the class would be back to normal. There'd be this hubbub of excitement, and we would discuss the first day, but...
But before we dive into what happened next, let me spoil something for you. Ron Jones never actually did answer his students' question. Sure, he started a revolution and things spiraled completely out of control, but the original question still remained. How could the German people sit back while the Nazis slaughtered those around them? After spending a total of 72 hours researching what made this experiment escalate so drastically, I've identified 3 puzzle pieces that I believe explain why it happened. And as we walk through the story together, I'll reveal them one by one.
It's so funny. Again, literally, this is Israel right now. Israel right now. If you are wondering, how does the world stand idly by as the Holocaust happens? Look at Gaza right now. Look at your neighbors. Look at your own personal opinion on the issue. Look at your own personal opinion on those who are fighting back against this Holocaust that is taking place. You don't have to imagine how could this have happened. We are currently living through it. That's it.
Will make sense.
Now, discipline is one thing, but there's something more. It's community.
This was the moment when it all changed for Jones because instead of taking responsibility over the class, he completely forgot both the lesson he wanted to teach and his role.
We need a symbol for our new community. A wave is a pattern of change. It has movement, direction, and impact. And from now on, we will be known as the wave.
Introduced a specific way for students to ask questions in class.
First of all, we would have to say Mr. Jones to start, and that our answers to these questions would have to be 3 words or less.
Mr. Ross, Chamberlain.
Now that's the way to answer a question. Punctual, precise.
Very, very brief, cryptic, short, sharp.
He also came up with a salute.
And the salute was like this.
It was pretty much just like, and we had to do this, right, when we saw each other or something.
And ID cards.
He gave us our 3rd wave ID cards.
And this was, again, I just reached in.
Why was the school letting this happen? Oh, God, I'm telling you, I love what they were letting you do back then at school, man. They would let teachers get away with whatever the fuck they wanted to do. Awesome.
In my drawer, and there was a bunch of index cards. So I pulled them out and passed them out to each student.
This is a strength through discipline. membership card.
And just as things were starting to get serious, doubters began to emerge as well.
I'm a big question asker, and lo and behold, that is precisely what I did. I think I stood up by my desk and said, Mr. Jones, why can't we just say what we think? Why can't we just express our opinions about what we think about the third wave? And at that point, he said, you to the library for the rest of the semester.
Understandably, there was no longer...
Like, are there no parents? Are there no parents? The children are not going home and being like, hey, by the way, at world history class in high school, my teacher basically sent me to the library for the rest of the semester. Like, ain't nobody... It was an experiment. I understand that. I'm just saying, where are the parents at?
Any room for dissent, and the formation of the third wave movement had never been clearer than on that day, as all the doubters were cast aside and labeled as the breakers. Jones wrote Strength Through Action, the final principle of the third wave movement.
You are all to actively recruit new members.
And they got cameras in the fucking classroom and everything. And also high school students look like they're 40. Or is this the actual reenactment of it? That's a movie? Oh, this is the movie reenactment of it? Swag wasn't invented yet? Wait, when the fuck? What year did they do this that the reenactment looks like it's from the 70s? Hold up. What year was this experiment conducted that in the 60s? Okay, so it was in 1967. And the reenactment is from when? 1981? Something about the timeline does not add up here. 1967 for the class, 1981 for the movie. Okay, that makes sense, actually. Never mind. This could be in that, yeah.
Members. Each new member must demonstrate knowledge of our rules and pledge strict obedience to them.
Mr. Ross, for the first time I feel like I'm part of something great.
Mr. Ross, this is like being born again.
Mr. Ross, I feel the same way.
Mr. Ross, I'm proud of the wave.
This brings me to the first reason why things spiraled out of control. The power of belonging to a group and how it can shape our behavior is a recurring theme in psychology.
I'm going to say it again. They should let random insane teachers experiment on students again. They should just let, like, you can't do this anymore. You know what I mean? Let the fucking crazy teachers let their freak flags fly, you know? Clearly. I mean, they were making movies out of it even. Like, they were like, this is so OP. This is so cool.
Take, for instance, the blue eyes, brown eyes experiment conducted by teacher Jane Elliott with elementary school students. Despite their young age, they quickly conformed to roles of superiority and inferiority based on eye color alone. A similar pattern emerged in the infamous Stanford prison experiment, where individuals assigned as either guards or prisoners embraced their roles with surprising intensity. Shared identity does not have to stem from something profound. It can arise from trivial distinctions like eye color. Given the right circumstances, people of any age can be influenced to adopt behaviors aligned with a group identity, often without realizing the potential consequences. And that's what makes it so dangerous. The influence of the simple exercises from day one was so pervasive that it didn't just shape the students, it transformed Jones himself, turning him from a teacher into the leader of a movement. Meanwhile, the Breakers began pushing back by putting up anti-movement posters around the campus. However, their efforts were swiftly countered by Jones's loyal followers, where they tore down their posters and replaced them with their own propaganda. Jones's students handed out flyers, put up banners, and set up recruitment tables to draw in more members. But when students from outside the class asked about the movement and its beliefs, the recruitment methods were peculiar, confrontational even, and at times almost forceful.
It was between classes, and I'm walking down this hallway, and at this point I encounter a table like this where there are two guys standing behind it. There is a banner on the wall, and the banner says the third wave. They constantly repeated this mantra.
The experiment was proven wrong. Prison guard experiment. Look up from your bloody bowl a second, mate. guy who's really upset that I'm not relitigating something that you learn in fucking Psych 101 in undergraduate, on your undergraduate course. Dude! If you don't fucking tell them, they're gonna think it's real. It was debunked. Yeah, I know. Not only was it unethical, but yeah. I know. It's like one of the first things they teach you in Psych 101.
Without really telling me what this was about. At this point, I decided, no, I'm not interested. I'm going to walk away. And as I start to take a step away, one of the guys walks around the corner, produces a small spiral wound binder and a pencil. And what he's going to do is he wants my name. I refused to give him my name. The other guy started to move over like it was actually going to be confrontational. At that time, I was getting ready to go to battle. It looked like maybe it was going to be a fist fight right here in the hallway.
Confusion and fear were rampant at this point, with fistfights breaking out frequently. It had truly become a frightening environment as Jones's followers could no longer see those outside their group the same way. The division was stark and tensions were escalating. In one instance, inside the teacher's faculty room, a student sat at a table in the corner.
Dude, American high schools used to be sick. They don't do that anymore. They don't let you do fun shit anymore in high school, bro. This is what I mean. All they got is being transgender. They don't let you experiment with fascism. All you got is kitty litter boxes.
Another teacher asked him to return to class. He refused, calmly stating that he had appointed himself as Jones's personal bodyguard. It turned out he needed the protection all along. Jones's classroom had been vandalized. Banners and posters were torn down. Chairs and tables flipped upside down. It was a complete mess. Tensions between the third wave and the breakers had reached an all-time high. And in response, Jones closed the curtains, shut the door, and locked his students inside the darkened.
Like, this is what I mean. This is like, you can't do any of this, man. Like, on the one hand, I'm like, let's see where this goes. On the other hand, I feel like there are numerous ethical violations here that a principal would have stopped dead in its fucking tracks, like on day 2. You did what to the kids? Are you out of your fucking mind? But I guess in the 60s, they were just letting you do whatever you want, dude.
We were kept standing. And then he changed the whole process on us.
Jones then reminded everyone of his authority, emphasizing that this was not just a game. The movement, he insisted, was far bigger than himself and his students. It was real, something that extended beyond the walls of their campus. He claimed that teachers from across the nation were involved and that they were all coming together to form a third political party in the country.
This was happening in San Francisco. He said this is happening in Chicago. This is happening in Philadelphia. This is happening in New York. And because it was working so well, they were going to come out with their party leader the next day.
That changed the simulation. That changed it to being the stakes were raised and all of a sudden it was bigger than me. And it wasn't something that I could pull out of and have it stop.
One of my fellow classmates from the back said, "Mr. Jones, what about this?" And it was a color ad and it said, "The third wave is coming."
And I reached over and grabbed it and I said, and this is the signal of action. And tomorrow we're going to have a rally. You're going to meet a presidential candidate that's going to explain the purpose of the wave. And this is our new leader. And we're going to rise up together and change the world.
The event was set to take place the next day at noon in the...
This is like some sort of high school fighting manga. Why the fuck were American schools in the 60s just Yankee Tokyo Revengers? That's just what it was, dude. And now it's all woke. Now they teach stuff like slavery and also say it's bad, you know?
Large assembly hall. After making his announcement, Ron Jones abruptly left the students alone in the darkened room. The shock caused by the vandalism only reinforced compliance among Jones's followers, pushing them deeper into the movement. Additionally,
yeah, from Tokyo Revengers to Wokyo Revengers, freaking got him. Hell yeah.
the lack of intervention when students were sent to the library for speaking out against Jones made the entire experiment even more convincing. As more people witnessed these punishments without stepping in, the bystander effect took hold. The responsibility to intervene in the face of injustice diminishes when others remain passive. On top of that, the pressure to conform to the group's actions played a significant role, making it even harder for individuals to resist the
I don't want to be taught slavery if this is how Americans teach fascism. Oh my God. Well, I mean, slavery comes after, don't you think?
movement's growing influence. With how fast things have developed in just 4 days, the real question remained: could it still be stopped? The day had finally arrived. The room was packed. Nearly 200 students filled the space. What had begun as an innocent classroom experiment had now consumed the entire...
How come they never do studies like this, but for communism? You know what I mean? There's never any, there's never any like democratic organization that takes place in these fucking studies. It's always for evil shit. Oh, we taught these kids how to be more fascist. Like, they're already fucking teenagers, okay? Teenagers have two speeds, fascist or anarchist. Nothing in between, regardless. Why is it always leaning into the worst behaviors of teenagers? And never into, I don't know, proving that this is how communism works. This is how we build communism. No.
Entire school, as if everyone had fallen under a spell.
In a moment, our national leader will address us. Robert?
Mr. Ross, yes.
Americans learning about fascism, let's be fascist. They're already fascist. They're epigenetic. Their epigenetic predetermined conditions are fascism. It's their destiny. They're just simply following through on it. They're just simply following what their destiny is.
Turn on the television set.
Time passed and unease began to settle in. The students grew restless. The television, meant to reveal their supposed leader, was instead displaying nothing but static. Suddenly, the lights blazed on and the television flickered to life, revealing not their awaited leader, but a speech by Adolf Hitler. Images of the Holocaust flooded the screen, a horrifying realization dawning upon them. Jones looked out at the stunned crowd.
There is no national youth movement.
Freaking got him, chat.
You thought you were so special. Better than everyone outside this room.
And just said, what I have witnessed for the last week and a half, or week, whatever it was, what I have witnessed has really sickened me.
Because we are no better or worse than the Germans. We were just like them. We'd work on the defense plan.
Wow, this guy was a real woke, dude. Nathan Fielder could never. I'm not gonna lie, this is a little bit. This story is so fucking stupid. Oh, I feel like this is exactly the type of story where people go, no, dude, it's brilliant. Like, the point he was making was so brilliant. It's so profound. Dude, what? You don't understand. What in the M. Night Shyamalan? Yeah, you really pulled it off, dude.
Plans. We witnessed this.
Yeah, this only proves this only proves the American precondition towards fascism. That a bunch of teenagers were so ready. Well, if it happens without the internet in 5 days, how many days does it take on Twitter? You know, something to think about.
Escalation.
I was liking it. The adulation, the power, the control. By the 4th day, my wife was saying to me, you have to stop this. It is very dangerous.
For years, I tried to hide from it, avoid it, not discuss it. It's a responsibility to really try to understand what is good and what is evil.
Now this guy gives speaking tours.
I thought it would be a one-day exercise, and it turned out to be a one-week existence in terror, actually.
My ego was inflated and my sense of power and control was elevated, and I liked it. That's the problem. But I'm at least aware of that.
Psychologist Philip Zimbardo coined the term the Lucifer effect to describe how individuals under the pressure of a specific role within a group dynamic can become consumed by their power, something that was clearly at play in this experiment. Likewise, Stanley Milgram's obedience theory helps explain why Jones's followers were so willing to comply with his orders. They believed that their actions were justified under his authority, absolving them of personal responsibility and further entrenching them in the movement.
You had to be. I'm sorry. I don't want to be that guy. I'm not exactly the most sophisticated intellectual, okay? But I feel like this is the most dumbed down version of like how fascism manifests I could have ever encountered. Every aspect of this is so ridiculous. Am I wrong? Am I crazy? Maybe you guys will counter what I'm saying here and be like, no, it's brilliant and here's why. But like this is so silly. Maybe I'm missing something, but isn't the way this makes things tangible that seems so far-fetched for the individual a good thing? Sure. Did it work? No. Remember that this was only about 10 years after school desegregation. Yeah, except schools have not desegregated, and they're more segregated than they were during desegregation at this point. And it's not just about the high schoolers that like learned this lesson and kept it going or whatever. I'm talking about the overarching supposedly like the overarching lesson that was taught to every American. Yeah. Also, the power dynamic here is a little bit more. I mean, it's not like you are the adult responsible for the well-being of children. And as the adult responsible for the well-being of children, you have a tremendous amount of power and influence over their lives. Not only are they extra malleable, but also you are the authority figure. And because of that, I feel like it's much easier to hit the Adolf Hitler mode in 4 days than the way it would work in normal society.
Be there to see people crying, horribly and shocked. The look of shock was like the earth was ending, and they didn't know what to do. People couldn't walk. They were sitting down in the chairs, and some people wanted to leave, didn't know whether to leave or not.
The lights were out as people were leaving. I remember some students crying, some students having to hold each other. I remember one guy walking by going, "Oh, I knew it was a joke all along." I don't think he felt that way, honestly.
When I came back to the classroom, my memory of the students were that they looked like mirages. A mirage on the highway in the hot summer, the shaking appearance. That's my memory of the students. They seemed to be trembling. Some of them seemed so shaky that if you just did that to them, they'd fall over.
It took a while for the students to fully recover from the experience. Complaints had been circulating since the movement first took shape, and the more conservative teachers had already been working behind the scenes to have Jones removed from the school. Eventually, their efforts succeeded, and he was forced to leave. It was a painful experience for everyone involved, especially for Jones, who had to give up what he loved most, teaching. It took him 10 years to finally find the courage to document what had happened during those fateful days.
Taiwanese student anxious as Harvard dreams left in limbo. Get this guy on Streamer University. If you want to be a streamer, you're already a little bit of a fascist anyway. Read the comments. Imagine your parents calling you out sick for the week and you come back to that. Dude, you won't believe what happened last week. The egos of the students in the library must have been through the roof. My toxic trait is thinking I'd be immune to this. POV, when you skip school for 1 day. In Germany, we had to read the book about this event in school. Crazy how far this story came. Okay. Half of Jewish Israeli teens hate Arabs, but hope for change remains, study shows. Final solution raging. Haaretz, half of Hitler youth hate Jews, but hope for change remains, study shows. I don't know. maybe the reason why I'm so cynical about this, about what we just watched here, is because I'm experiencing it in real time right now. It's happening every day, and I know exactly how it works. People are too busy to pay attention, too self-centered, too disinterested. You know? I mean, we're literally in it. And if you were to ask 99% of people who watch this video, those in the comments, and most people that read the book, hey, it's happening right now with Israel, they wouldn't have a come to Jesus moment. You understand? They would not turn around and go, oh my God, you're right. They would just go, nah, this is different. Do you see what I mean? This is why I'm talking about like the powerlessness of social experiments such as this one. Especially in America, it makes me wonder how powerless the opponents of the Nazis felt in Germany. It makes me think about the collective blame and how easily we assume regular people have agency as opposed to things being dictated by an elite. Wait, first of all, the opposition, the opponents of the Nazis literally fought hard and died for it and got arrested for it and then died later in the concentration camps for it. I've told you this statistic before. As opposed to Israel, okay, as opposed to Israeli society right now, or as opposed to like what America's doing right now, 800,000 Germans were arrested for resisting against the Nazi regime. Now, some of those people were probably arrested for frivolous reasons. Some of those were arrested for just being Jewish in public and then, checked off as a resistor or whatever. But 800,000 is a crazy number, dude. Yeah, 800,000 in the all the way back in the 30s. Being Jewish in public sounds like a fake crime Felix would come up with. Excuse me. It's a real crime right now in modern day America in campuses like Hamasverd, okay? The madrasas of Hamasverd and Columbia Anti-Semity. It's literally a crime to be Jewish in public. I'll have you know. Yeah. That this experiment and others like the Stanford Prison experiment was debunked has already been said, but it's important to realize that the psych sciences of the 50s and 60s in America were both crazy fabulous and aching to achieve the goal of removing any and all culpability among the German people, bring them back in the good graces of Americans. All they truly discovered was how easy it is and how naive Americans are. Yeah. Columbia and Harvard, dude. Yeah. Or Greece airports. Try saying shalom and see what happens. Won't anybody think about super famous YouTubers that are immensely privileged? Really fucked up. Check your privilege, sir. God damn, dude. Holy shit.